Hey guys, we are in day 328 in our Bible reading plan, Hosea 12 through 14 and Psalm 115. A great psalm, by the way. Spend some time meditating through it, praying to the Lord about it. We're finishing the book of Hosea, a book of tender love and compassion. And the big idea is that even when I fail to see it and substitute it for lesser things, God's presence is my security and his love is my strength. How good we are at substituting God's ways, God's compassion, God's love in our life, God's mercy for lesser things. We do it all the time. We do it in a million ways. We substitute his presence for pursuing a job that we think will bring us satisfaction, for relationships we think will satisfy us, for hobbies or doom scrolling or whatever it is. In fact, chapter 12 of Hosea says, Ephraim feeds on the wind. And that's what we often do. We feed on the wind. And he goes on to compare Jacob wrestling for the Lord and his blessing to what they were doing, which is following after empty things. And so he says, I have an indictment against Judah. And then he compares, how Jacob met God at Bethel. There God spoke to him. And he says, so you, by the help of your God, return, verse 6, hold fast to love and justice, wait continually for your God. And then he goes on to describe how they turned to Egypt and Assyria. Chapter 13, there's an indictment, judgment on Israel. Why? Because those who offer human sacrifice kiss calves, therefore they shall be like the morning mist. They're there and then they fleet. He says, but I am the Lord your God. He reminds them of who he is. It was I who knew you in the wilderness, in the land of drought. They were filled and their heart. But when they had grazed, they became full. Verse 6, they were filled and their hearts were lifted up. Therefore, they forgot me. This was the admonition in Deuteronomy chapter 8. If you remember back to that chapter, he says, if you get rich and you forget me, it's going to be a problem for you. And this is what they had done for centuries. And by the way, this is an indictment against the way that we live here in the U.S. and in the West and in places where we have material goods. We start thinking we're fine, we don't need God. And how often it is that we turn to God in times of need, and financial need is often a trigger for us to turn to God. And that's okay. God uses that if we would just return. In fact, chapter 14 is an invitation to return. It is the heart of God is not to punish his people, but to urge them, to beg them to return. So he says that chapter 14 is one of the most tender chapters in the entire book. It says, return, O Israel, to the Lord your God, for you have stumbled because of your iniquity. Take with you words and return to the Lord. And he gives them an example of words, verse 3, words that say, Assyria will not save us. We will not ride on horses. And we will say no more, our God, to the work of our hands. Are you worshiping? Even ministry can become something we worship. And we think we're all that because our ministries are growing and our books are selling. I'm not talking about our ministry here, just in general. And then he says, O Ephraim, in verse 8, what have I to do with idols? It is I who answer and look after you. I am like an evergreen cypress. From me comes your fruit. And isn't that good news today to know that God is the one who controls our future? And he ends with, for the ways of the Lord are right, and the upright walk in them, but transgressions stumble in them. The tragedy of the book of Hosea is that they did not listen. 150 years later, the people of Israel were persistent in sin and they were taken into captivity by the Babylonians. But the good news of the gospel is that all of this was in order to bring about the coming of Jesus Christ, who would save us and continues to save those who turn to him in faith. Love you guys. I hope you love Jesus. Take care.